You're listening to The Truth with Danger Doug, showing you how to take control of your life by helping you find your true passion. Whether it's personal development, leadership training, or embracing a career change, we'll help you find out who you truly are and give you the tools you need to improve your life. It's time to find your truth with your host, Danger Doug.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we've got Damian Andrews. Damian, you started out, you got a pretty interesting history. You started out in the military in Australia in the SAS. So that stands for what? Special Air Service, correct?
Yeah, Special Air Service Regiment, that's right.
Okay, so you did that. Then you've moved on. Now, 2 decades later, you are the CEO of your own company and you're trying to push out some stuff. Why don't you go ahead and give us basically what do you do and what's the impact you're trying to make? And, so give us a background on you and how you got to where you're at.
Yeah, well, basically my background, I was at school like most people go to school, and probably like most people, I didn't want to be there. I wanted to get out. I wasn't allowed to leave school, and my dad said I wasn't allowed to leave school if I had a job. Ironically, about a week later, Army recruitment people come around to my school, and I thought, fantastic, this is a great way out of here. So I joined the Army. I went to basic training, and in that I realized that running around the bush with a rifle and a backpack probably wasn't my most exciting thing to do. And I was there, and there was an option to different jobs that you could apply for, and there was things like armoured and engineers and transport, signals. They were all the cool jobs, but there wasn't many of those jobs. And if you didn't get one of those jobs, you were going to infantry and running around the bush, which is what I was trying to avoid. And there was one job that nobody seemed to want. So I thought, and I had a look at that job, and I thought, I'm an 18-year-old guy. So my main focus, I'm thinking girls like guys that can cook. It was a chef's position, and no one's applying for it. And I thought, there's my chance. A, girls like it. B, I'm going to learn to cook, which I could use to get out of, can use if I want to get out of the Army. And that was probably my second decision. And the second decision was actually that I wasn't going to have to go to the infantry. So I went to the Army's culinary school, and I was trained as a chef. And then while I was there, near the end of that course, one of the guys on my course was asked, did he want to go to Perth? And he said no, and Perth was a long way from my home. It was the other side of the country, and I thought, I'll go to Perth. I've never been there. I put my hand up and said, I'll go. And the senior officer looked at me and he says, okay, you can do the evaluation and testing. Now, I probably should have asked what that was for. As it turned out, it was to go to the SAS. So I ended up posted as a chef to the SAS. So not only did I get trained as a chef, I got to do everything the SAS did. So I went parachuting, rock climbing, abseiling into caves, submarine exercises, just did a whole lot of stuff like that. And one time actually on a submarine exercise, it was really good as being a chef there as well as in the SAS. The captain of the submarine, he's given me a personal tour of the submarine, and then I had dinner with all the officers in the officers' mess, which is really decadent, drinking tea from fine china in the officers' mess on board a submarine. It was really cool. But I did my time there, and I looked sort of at people 10 years my senior, and I realized that's not what I wanted to be. I didn't want to be in there. So after I did my 4 years in the Army, I got out. I fluffed around a little bit in Western Australia. I went and worked in the mine sites up there for a bit because there's some good money to be earned there. And then I came back to Melbourne, which is back on the other side of the country in Australia. And I studied commerce and accounting and law, essentially, as a mature age student. And I worked in corporate recovery for a number of years. I got a job working for two fantastic partners that were very, very shrewd, very intelligent, and they really took me under their wing and taught me a lot of finance and company operations. So basically, with corporate recovery, we went into organizations that were in financial distress and had to take control of them really quickly. We're looking to find where the maximum value is as to whether the business is going to trade on and be sold as a going concern, or whether they're going to break up the parts and sell those off. And so you really had to understand commercial realities of business very quickly. You had to identify what were the key critical points in those businesses, and make decisions and build trust really quickly as well, because you're going into a situation where a lot of people are under pressure, they're feeling the stress. Most of the employees know the company's in financial trouble. They're unsure about whether their job's going to continue. So you had to really build that, especially to trade it on, because you want to keep those key people there. So I had to build that trust and give them hope very quickly. So I did that for for about 8 years. And then I started to do some consulting outside of that in that corporate recovery space, which actually led to some consulting into the large first tier companies where I was sorting out contractual and construction issues. And so I spent a lot of time dealing with problem situations. I accidentally ended up as a mediator between the unions and one of the large construction companies. The site had been shut down because of a company that had gone under, and they were concerned about the employees, so the union had shut down the site. And I was there helping out because that company that had gone under was in receivership, and I had experience in that. And I was in the site office, and the project director and the project manager said they were going to meet with the union to work things out. And I said, cool, I'll see you after that. And they said, no, come along. And I went, okay, no problem, chance to learn something. And so I walk into the meeting, and there's this big table set up. All the union guys, there's about 6 union guys sitting on one side of the table. All the guys from this head contractor company sat on the other side of the table. There's no seats left except one right in the middle between the two sides at the head of the table. So I sat there, and the guys are just staring at each other. It's like this Mexican standoff. And so I turned to the union guy and said, my understanding is this is what you're after. This is what you want. And I talked through that with them. And then I talked to the head contractor and said, look, my understanding is what you want. And I ended up playing mediator between the two. And then after 2 days, we actually reached an outcome where they went back to work. Everyone was happy. And as we were walking back to the office, the site office after that last meeting, the project director told me, he said, look, I'm glad you're there because I was going to tell them to F off. And so I dealt with some of these really high stress situations in circumstances where the projects were under a lot of pressure. It seemed to be where I gravitated towards. Part of my role was when a project was not performing as well financially, was to go in and find out where we could make additional claims. So identify what had happened on the project, because I seemed to have a practical knowledge of construction. I've built a lot of things myself, but I also had that strong contractual background as well. So I could look at a contract and say, well, this has happened on site. This is how it relates to the contract, and here's why you should pay extra money. And I got very good at doing that. So I got sent to a lot of these jobs where they weren't performing as well to try and create claims to build up the margin of the project. And so I did that consulting for quite a bit of time. Then I had an opportunity to work with a benefactor who wanted to start a foundation. I knew him through my stepdaughter's school. My stepdaughters went to school with his daughter. We just knew each other socially through the school. And one day he was talking about this foundation he wanted to start. He'd actually been in a situation where he's built a very, very successful business that franchised all around Australia. And now he was stepping back from that. His son was running the business and he wanted to give back, but he wasn't sure where to. He spent a number of years trying to work out where to give back, what was his passion to give back. And then it turned out he found out his daughter was the victim. Him and his wife had 7 children, and one of his daughters was a victim of domestic violence for a number of years, and they didn't know. And he was telling me the story that when he found out, and he was there at the police station while his daughter was giving this report, talking about all this abuse that she'd suffered, and he's just bawling his eyes out. And so that's where he connected with. And when he told me the story that he wanted to set up this foundation to help in that space, I connected with that because, I mean, that was something that I've experienced as well. I've been attacked myself in that regard. And so I said, look, I'd love to help out. And so I was helping him out a little bit. And just volunteering, helping him out. And the board finally said, look, if you really want to get this up and running, you need to appoint someone as the CEO and get that running. And so he turned to me and said, look, would you like to take on the role as a CEO and get this organization up and running? And so I accepted that. And one of the things I'm really good at is I'm very good at efficiency. And so the role to get the organization up and running should have taken about 18 months to 2 years from complete scratch. And I did it in 6 months. So, the board was really, really impressed with that. And it was just a matter of finding where are the key things to move that forward. And then I continued on with that organization for probably another 6 months after that. It was never the intention that I stay, because as a charitable organization, my rate was too high to justify that, but it was justified to do what I did in such a short time frame. So then I moved on from that, and I had a bit of a break due to some personal things that I needed to deal with. So I had a couple of years off, sorting that out, looking after my son, getting him through school and getting him through a few things that he was going through. And now that that's all settled down, I'm in a position where I want to start moving forward again with a couple of areas that I work with, and some of the work that I do with large companies, still helping them with efficiency. I've been putting them together in more economical and affordable packages to release to smaller businesses and individuals as well. So, and that's kind of leads me up to where I am at the moment, and which is what, through my background, I've prepared a number of educational materials which were exclusive to certain organisations, and I've started to release them for free, because I that's my part of how I want to give back. I want to share that with people. So so I've started to release those for free for people, anyone to access, to help people move forward. And I've got some material on leadership, on how to do presentations very well, a lot of on how to hold meetings very well, and on innovation. A lot of that's modeled from Steve Jobs, who founded Apple. I've studied a lot of techniques that he used and incorporated that into some education. I've got a course that teaches you how to get a pay rise, not just one pay rise, but regular pay rises, what to do to position yourself so you can get, show your value and get regular pay rises. One of the educations that I've got coming up to be released soon is a really intensive negotiation course. People that have done that course have said that it's one of the best courses they've ever done, because it's not only theory, but there's a lot of practicals, in the sense of the tactics that can be used against you in negotiation, but also how to counter those tactics. So it's very practical, and that's something that a lot of courses don't get in, that are out there, don't get into. There's a lot of theory, but this is actually very practical, and it also shows you there's 16 different sources of power you can draw from, so that when you walk into any negotiation, you're not going to be intimidated. You're just going to stand strong and hold your position and reach an outcome that works for you. So that's people that have done that course prior to have said it was one of the most amazing negotiation courses they've done. And I've even updated it to counter. There's a great negotiation teacher out there, Chris Voss, who was a former FBI negotiator, and he teaches how to use no. And I've got counters for that as well. So I can counter Chris Voss's no techniques as well. And I show people how to do that. So, and that's one of the courses that I've got coming up that'll be released soon as well. And that's going to be made completely available completely for free.
Yeah. So, I think that'd be really important for a lot of people that are out there trying to get, they're trying to get that pay raise, or they're trying to get that promotion. And
yeah,
I think that'd be key for a lot of people, because there's a lot of people out there that are trying to figure out, they go in and they just don't know how to negotiate. And then they walk out.
Correct.
They're extremely disappointed. They're stressed out because, what they feel they've been working for years isn't working out for them. And now your course, is that, I take it's practical application, but is there also videos that go with that, where you present situations and?
Yeah, in the course, I talk through how to. I've set it up differently than the pay rise course. I wanted to do differently. I wanted to, so instead of other courses I've got, I'm in front of the camera talking. This one I wanted to do with more two inputs. So what I've done is I've done it me talking, but with a slideshow, so they can actually read what is there as well. And then there's some practical things that they can take away. But throughout the course, there's exercises to do. So this is, and in each module, there's here, do this exercise. This will help you strengthen your ability. And but it's also very focused on empowering yourself to be able to make those decisions. And that's one of the key features that I really try to focus on is one of my my steps in how I teach people now is there's 4 steps. One is choose what you want. And the reason I specifically say choose, because a lot of times you'll ask people to say, what do you want? And most people will go, oh, I don't know what I want. And by changing the words are really critical in how we operate. For example, if I told you to not think of a blue car, your mind has to think of a blue car to know what to reference to not think of it. And this is how a lot of people will work. And this is where a lot of, for example, smokers is a great example. A lot of people, my mum's a great example of that. She's a smoker and she talks about not wanting to smoke. And because you're thinking about the smoking, you're never going to quit. You're fighting against yourself. What I teach people is to make that more efficient by focusing on what the outcome you want. So I want to be healthy. And I've smoked in the past too. And I could quit any time. And I did. All I did was change my thinking from, instead of being a smoker, I said, I want to be healthy. I want to breathe clean air. And that's what your mind is attracted to. Your mind's got a little thing called, you probably know this, the reticular activating system. And it's a small part. It's about as big, as wide as your little finger, up to your second knuckle long. So it's not very big, but it filters everything you see. Most people have experienced where they'll be looking for something and they'll look all around the house and they'll look in places like the freezer and the fridge and all obscure places. And then they will find it just sitting on the bench right there in front of them. And it was always there. The reason they couldn't see it is the reticular activating system actually blocks things. And a lot of times we have opportunity right in front of us, but we don't see it because the way we've set up our mind is to block that information. Hence, when you ask people, what do I want? Their natural filter is going, oh, I don't know. Hence, I now teach people to say, what do you choose? Because when you say, what do you choose? It actually then opens that doorway in your mind going, hang on a minute, I've got the choice. I have the power to choose. I can make that decision. And I liken that to, for example, again, drawing from my father. My father worked in the same organization for his entire career. He started as an apprentice electrician. He worked his way through there and he ended up being a controller. It was for a power station and for the state electricity company at the time. And that was normal for a lot of people of his era. They were expected to work wherever they worked for their entire career. Today, people have infinite opportunity. It's not expected that you work wherever you work in that same place forever. You can move wherever you want. We have this infinite opportunity to do whatever we want to do. But what people aren't taught is how to make that decision. How do you decide on what's right for you? And this is where when you ask a lot of people what you want, they don't know because they've never been taught how to make those decisions. And that's why I teach people to ask themselves, what do you choose? Because all of a sudden that wakes up inside of you. Hang on a minute, I have the power. I have the choice. In this moment, I have the choice of what to do. And the second step that I teach is to identify the high impact task. Now, what a high impact task is the task that's going to get you there the quickest. Now, for example, if you wanted to go from one city to another city, you've got lots of options available. You could walk, you could ride a bike, you can drive, you can catch a bus, a train, a plane. Now, it depends on what you choose as to what is the most effective or what is the higher impact task to get you what you want. If you want to get from city to city the quickest, plane might be the option because you're going to get there. But if you want to have a nice, relaxing journey, it might be the train because that's what you choose. So this is where it's critical to know what to choose what you want and then identify from that choice what is the high impact task because then that's going to get you there the quickest. And the next part of that is the third part, which might seem obvious, but it's amazing how this, how many people don't do this, and I was guilty of it many times, is to do the high impact tasks first. First thing you do in the day is you do something, one of the high impact tasks you need to move to where you want to go. Because a lot of times what will happen is people will wake up, they'll go and make a coffee, they'll look at their emails, and then they'll open an email, they'll go, oh, okay, I need to deal with, this email. Then they'll get distracted by something else. They'll then come back to that email, reread it. A lot of time is wasted rereading emails and redoing information that you'd actually start and don't finish. And then they get to the end of the day and they haven't done anything on that high impact task they needed because they kept getting filtered out. And the reason that happens, and this is where we talk about procrastination. People talk about how they procrastinate, how to get over procrastination. This is a different philosophy. This is my philosophy. I don't believe procrastination exists. I believe in any given moment, you're doing what you're focusing on. And I've done this myself. For example, I'll have a goal that I want to do, and I'll set that goal. And then the next day I'll be looking at it and I'm going, I actually want to watch Netflix. I want to check out that, next season of Game of Thrones. And then you start watching that and then you keep watching that all the way through. And people say they're procrastinating, but they're not procrastinating. In that moment, what they're thinking of, their mind up here, they're thinking, I want to watch Game of Thrones. And that's coming back to what's my choice. So what they're choosing to do in that moment is watch Game of Thrones. So not procrastinating, they're doing what they're choosing at the moment. What they've done is they've pushed their goal aside and said, in this moment, Game of Thrones is more important. So what I teach is, well, let's come back to what do you choose? In that moment, what are you choosing? Are you choosing to move towards your goal? Is that what you want to do or not? And when you change that attitude, if you start thinking and saying, in this moment, we start to go to watch Game of Thrones, you say, actually, what do I choose? Do I choose to work on my goal? All of a sudden, your mindset will shift and you will start actually being drawn towards the goal that you want to achieve, the steps that you need to do. And then that will remind you of the high impact task you need to do. And you actually start doing that. As soon as you put yourself back in that choice saying, hey, I choose, I'm not forced in procrastination. I'm actually choosing not to work towards my goal. And this comes to the fourth point. And this draws from Joseph Campbell, the hero's journey in the myth model. He talks about this supreme ordeal. And this is where you need to face and overcome basically your supreme ordeal. You have to recognize that for your life to be different, you have to change. And that's what I'm talking about. In that moment when you think you're procrastinating, you're actually doing what you choose. If you then face and overcome your supreme ordeal and recognize that it's within you, you're the one that needs to make that decision. You're the one that needs to change. You go, okay, I can choose. I choose to move towards my goal. Because your mind operates, it will keep you, it's designed to protect you from thousands and millions of years of evolution, if you believe that, or if you believe in creationism, then how your mind was set up is still designed to protect you. So it will keep you in your comfort zone. So if you move too far from that, it becomes uncomfortable and you get drawn back. But if you're in your mind, you create it first, you make the choice, you say, this is what I choose, you've chosen your high impact task. Then you face and overcome your supreme ordeal by focusing on where you want to go. All of a sudden, that becomes less uncomfortable because it's clear in your mind and you start moving towards that. So you become drawn to you. It almost like you're out of your comfort zone. If you're going, well, it's really important to me, this goal and to do these high impact tasks to get me where I'm going. If you actually start to watch Game of Thrones, it becomes really uncomfortable to sit there and watch it because you feel like you should be doing something else. You're actually drawn towards that. And that's one of the skills when you look at great leaders, your Steve Jobs, your Bill Gates, your Mark Zuckerbergs, all these people that are great leaders, the one key thing that they have that's underlying everything else is they have a compelling future. They're drawn to this future of where they want to be, of how they want the world to be, how they want to help the world, how they want to help the world to be a better place. They've got this vision of the future that compels them to drive them forward. And that's what you can do when you set yourself up this way, by choosing what you want, identifying the high impact tasks, doing them first, and facing and overcoming your supreme ordeal. You actually take that step It's not like you don't have to find motivation. You're actually compelled to move in that direction. And that's a whole completely different way to operate. It becomes procrastination ceases to exist. Motivation ceases to be something you have to be concerned about because you're drawn to it. What you've done is you've set it up in your mind that you're outside your comfort zone and you need to act to move towards back where you're going to be comfortable, which is that vision in your mind. So that's the basis of the program that I do with large organizations at the moment. And at the moment, the work that I do is actually it's word of mouth through the contacts that I've got with national and international organizations. And it's not something like, if you go to my website at the moment, I've just got on there my this free stuff I'm going away because I've never really had to have a website before. It's all directly with people that I know within the industry. And I get referrals from people saying, if you need this, go and see Damian. But what I want to do now and what I'm working on and be released very soon, end of May, early June, is I'm making that package that I deliver to high-end corporates in a more in a more economical package that'll be suitable for smaller business and individuals as well. To teach that philosophy that I've just talked through, is to have that whole approach of being drawn to where you want to go.
Yeah.
And another example of that is I was in a meeting 2 days ago where they were talking about what do you want to give up? What are you willing to give up for your goals? And that got me thinking about. I've also heard recently. It said, are you willing to die for your goals? And that really got me thinking about, reminding me of the philosophy I was taught when I was in the Army and how I operate. Because I remember when I first joined the Army, and a lot of military personnel around the world, they're taught to die for their cause, die for their country. Are you prepared to die for your country? That kind of thing, and that's how they're taught. And you also see that with terrorist organizations as well. I mean, suicide bombers and kamikaze, that type of thing. Die for your country, die for your cause. And that's kind of the philosophy behind it is how much are you passionate about it. The interesting thing that when I joined the Army from day one, we were taught one of the first things they said to us. They said, "Don't die for your country. Make the other guy die for his." And that's a whole different philosophy of, and it's where I'd say to you, what are you really, do you want to live for your goals? Are you living your life for your goals? Do you want, is that really inspiring? And when you put it this way, when you say it to yourself, you say like, all right, am I willing to die for this? I mean, dying's not a comfortable thing to think about. It's not really that motivating when you really put it that way. But you say, I want to live for my goals. All of a sudden you can feel yourself lightening up going, I want to live for this. I'm driven by this. And so that whole philosophy of living for your goals and being compelled into your future really makes that achievement of goals much easier. Because a lot of people, and this is, go ahead.
No, and I didn't mean to cut in. You brought up the choice of, the procrastination, that there's really no such thing as procrastination. And I've never heard it broke down that way. And I like how you said you're telling people you're choosing. When you brought up the analogy of the Netflix, or you wake up the next day and you haven't still made any progress toward your goal. And you're kind of looking at it like, well, I got some other stuff to do. Well, then, it kind of goes back into the mind of, well, is that truly the goal you want? Do you want it bad enough? Correct. I mean, am I hearing that correctly? Because sometimes,
exactly.
you might say, hey, this is, is that something you really want? Or is that something, that would be nice to have?
Yeah. And this is where, I mean, exactly. It's that whole, in that moment, you have the choice. So you choose in any moment, and it's living now, but with a future vision. And there's the talk of the point of power is in the present, which is not correct. The point of power is not in the present. The point of power is in the future. So whenever you do something, if you, for example, you want to have a cup of coffee, it's because you're thirsty and you want to quench your thirst. So that you have a future of quenching your thirst. So you go and make a coffee, and that's a very short point of power in the future. The same token, you might want to watch Netflix all day because you have this future of just sitting back on the couch and relaxing. That's your point of power, is that vision of that future. So you go and grab the control, turn your TV on, and you relax and watch Netflix. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you choose to do. And there's times where I will sit and watch, a TV series and enjoy that, because we need that balance in our life. It's when you realize that you actually have that power, that you're actually, when you're doing that, that that in any moment you have the power to choose what you're doing. And when you recognize that this is my choice, and then you're sitting on your butt all day and going, is that really how you want to live your life? And that's where it comes back to, again, having that vision in your mind, your bigger vision, going, what do I choose? Understanding that you have that power, and you go, well, actually what I'd like a nicer house. So what's that going to require? Well, it's going to require I have to boost my income a little bit. How do I do that? Well, I do Damian's course on how to get a pay rise. And that shows me how to increase my value. So I take those steps, and then I can market myself. I'll get a pay rise, and then I can have a nicer house to live in, and that's the focus in your mind. Whatever the key focus is in your mind is what you'll move towards. And that's because that's the future you're holding. And that's where the point of power is. So it's important to recognize that, coming back to that whole understanding, you have the choice. What is the thoughts going through your head? If those thoughts are, relaxing, watching Netflix, which we do. If those thoughts are, I want to have a better career or a better house, then all of a sudden you're going to start looking for things as to what are those tasks that are going to get me there. Because if that's the vision you've got in your mind, it becomes uncomfortable to stay where you are. I experience this a lot. I experienced this today. I was sitting there with my son, we were watching TV, and I was uncomfortable sitting there. I wanted to spend that time with him, and I enjoyed that. But when we got to the second episode, started watching the second episode, I'm starting to get a bit uncomfortable, because I know there's some other stuff that I'd really prefer to be doing. We'd watched the first episode, and that was nice. And that was the time that I had with him. And I think he wanted to play a video game anyway. So watching the second episode became uncomfortable. And when we finished, he went and played the video game, and I went and did the work that I was doing. And it was, I felt better. I felt more in line with what I'm doing. And this is the other thing which I teach people is start small. Pick something that you choose to do that you can do in a day, and then have that in your focus, that in your mind. Get that really focused in your mind. This is what I choose. This is the outcome I want. And then in that day, do that. But notice when you've done it, notice what goes on inside your body. You have this amazing feeling, because you feel so empowered, because you realize not only did you choose it, but you achieved it. And that becomes, and what that's actually happening is you're actually using the dopamine in your body. You're triggering that in your body, and you're actually starting to get that rush, which becomes like an addiction in and of itself, because you've got the dopamine going. Dopamine makes you feel good. Serotonin as well gets released, and you actually feel this feeling. So you're actually drawn to do it. It becomes almost like a perpetual motion machine inside your body, where you're actually, because you're choosing, when you make that choice, you actually start to feel good about it immediately. But then when you achieve it, you get this even bigger rush. You go, wow, I did that. When you look back on your day and go, wow, look, I not only did I do it, but I did these steps. And you start to feel great about that. And so, like, what can I do next? And you start making bigger and bigger and longer term goals to try and to achieve that, and actually taking those steps. And as we were talking about before, that procrastination doesn't exist anymore, because that's the focus in your mind as to what you choose.
Yeah. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to have some questions I've got for you, and we're going to delve into some possible solutions and how people can get in touch with you.
Thank you.
Hey everybody. So we're back with Damian Andrews. Damian, so you broke down a pretty good thing on, a lot of times procrastination doesn't exist. It's actually, it's you're choosing not to do things. It's not really procrastination. And, I brought up to you before, does that make your goals, if you have goals, say it's a year from now or what have you, and what would be your thoughts on if you put a timeline on your goal of a year? It's going to take you a year to get there. But if you put a timeline on it, 6 months. It's going to take 6 months. So how would you address that?
I agree with you completely there that any task will extend to the time period you allow for it. From that perspective, I'm probably not the best at setting time periods for my goal. I've found that what happens is that when you get really clear about about what you want, the outcome you want, certain doors open when you allow your reticular activating system to open that filter up, to see different opportunities, new things open up. And an example, and this is a very simple example, is I was at home the other day and the cleaner turned up and I had a meeting that I was about to start and I didn't have cash to give her. So I need to get some money. And I'm down at the beach house and the local village I know has 2 ATMs. I've been here for 12 years. And so I duck down there and I expect to get car parks out the front of where I'm going. And as I pull up in front of ATM number 1, there's one car park. I park there, I get out, pull my card out, and the ATM's shut. So I'm time poor. These are not my bank. I'm happy to pay the extra fee. So I think I'll wander around to the other one, which is only a couple of 100 meters away. And I wander around there and that one's shut. And I'm like, holy crap. There's no, I've got this meeting to get to. I've got to get the money. And so I decided, I thought, no, hang on a minute. I'll go and ask, and then there might be some ATM. Even though I've been here for 12 years, there might be some ATM that I'm not aware of. So I walk into the newsagent and I say, look, is there any other ATMs? I said, no, there's no other ATMs. But the post office is the branch for a bank. And I went, and it was my bank. So it turns out, the post office was literally 4 shops away, and I've wandered into the post office, gone there, got cash out without getting any extra fees, got home, given the money to the cleaner, and back in time for my meeting. And I really believe that with that time frame is when you allow your reticular activating system to open up and to take in other information, you find these opportunities, these gems of ideas that you probably wouldn't have even considered before because you actually filtered it out. And that's where I find that if you set a time frame, it'll extend to that time frame. But if you allow yourself to see opportunity, it's amazing the things that come out of left field to help you get there a lot easier and a lot quicker.
No, that's actually pretty good. Now, I kind of like that story, because you're basically looking outside the box of, okay, I still have to do this. How am I going to get there? How am I going to get this done? And a lot of people, I think, once they get those roadblocks up, they choose not to look outside of themselves. Like yourself, you actually ask somebody, hey, do you know of another ATM?
Yeah.
And a lot of people are just, they close down when the normal means of a solution for them aren't there. They're not,
Exactly.
They're just not adapted to being able to look for another solution that might be out of the box of something they've done before.
That's exactly right. And I find that mental attitude of allowing things to come in makes, especially if you believe it's going to be hard, it'll be hard. I have the opposite, and I teach people again what to focus on it. And I say, well, what's the easy solution here? How can I get to this quicker? And all of a sudden you start to notice things. You open your reticular activating system.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful. Now, you're doing right now, you've got your company set up, you're advising to corporates. You've done everything from mediating between corporations to unions, and you also are helping a lot of individuals. When you've gone out and helped companies, what's the feedback you get when they look back at their employees because now they're able to actually choose vice procrastinate and actually get those goals done faster?
Yeah, from the company perspective, there's a lot of teamwork, and a lot of people start to realize they can do things beyond what they've done before. And all of a sudden, I implement, part of it's creating a habit as well. Once you create it as a habit, people just do it naturally and don't think about it. And I try not to get too much into philosophy behind it because people get lost in that. And so I focus on teaching them the principles and then making those principles a habit. And then they do that, and they find that then what they're doing is they're regularly innovating. They're regularly looking for ways to improve, just small little improvements. And when you look at it, if you make a small little improvement once a week, at the end of the year, you've made 52 improvements. The organization is operating a whole lot smoother than or a whole lot more efficient than what it was at the start. And it's just getting in that habit of regularly making those little improvements. And all of a sudden, at the end of the year, there's a massive improvement. And not only that, it just continues on.
Now, I was looking at your website, and you're looking out there to do some stuff also with the youth. I
Yep.
noticed, and you want to highlight on what you're trying to do to help out the youth out there and basically get them on track.
Part of what I want to do is, I'm trying to help. One of the things I did, like, for example, when I was some of the work in construction, I'd be walking around and I'd always try to find some way of giving back a little bit extra. So I might be doing an assessment, a quality assessment of a building. I was doing this one time with it was 22-story high rise, and there was a bunch of guys. So I have a couple of funny videos that I find on YouTube but they're inspirational videos of how to better relate to people and things like that. And so I showed that video, and everyone had a bit of a laugh and moved on. But after they'd gone, one guy, he came up to me, and this was a big burly guy. He's almost in tears, and he's like, "Man, my wife and I, we're just at each other's throat. We're just I don't know what to do. We're not getting along. We're just it's like we're going to divorce." And I said, well, I asked him, I said, do you love your wife? And he goes, yeah, I love her a lot. I just don't know what to do. And I said, well, what I'll do is this video that I showed you, there's actually a bigger program of that on there about how to have a better marriage. And it's what I suggest you do. I'll send you the link. Sit down and start watching that. Watch it somewhere where your wife's going to walk past. Now, being a woman, she's going to ask you what you're watching. And I said, say to her, look, honey, we've got a problem. I know I love you very much. I know we've got our problems. A friend suggested that I watch this video because it might help us come back together again. And so that's what I'm doing. And then I said, shut up. Don't say anything more after that. Just shut up. And if she's interested, she'll talk to you about it. If not, let it go and don't try and push anything. You take what you can from it. I bumped into him 2 months later, and he's like, man, changed my life. We're like teenagers again. We're always trying to get each other's clothes off and just romantically in love. And that, for me, those moments where someone comes up to me afterwards and says, hey man, you changed my life. You've helped. My life is so much better because of that. And I don't believe it's really that I've changed their life. I've just given them the tools to do that. I don't want to be the mentor of, where you're relying on me to tell you how to do that. That's not I don't think that's a good mentor. A mentor is one that awakens that within you, in that you have the power to back yourself, that you can choose, because I believe all the answers are inside you. And it's the same with young people. It's recognizing that especially today when they've got so much choice, how do you make a decision? And I do that with my son. I always ask him, what do you choose? I ask him, why do you wake up in the morning? Why did you wake up this morning? And, so to get him to think about why he's here, what's his purpose, and it's his choice. We can be anything we want to be, especially the youth. They've got that opportunity to be anything they want to be. We live in one of the best ages ever in history, and they can create so many different things and create so much wonder and help the world in so many ways when they recognize that. So yeah, I have a definite passion to help young people recognize that they can do amazing things.
Yeah, I know, that was pretty good. It reminds me of, the story. You're basically empowering somebody. And once you empower them, then it kind of opens up that part of the brain that says, okay, hey, I can fix myself. I can move down these roads. And it's the same even with the youth, right? You were just talking about the marriage. Now you're talking about, the youth. And it's the same thing because, and one of the philosophies I think about is, the old saying, you can give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day. But if you teach them how to fish, they'll eat forever. And it's kind of the same analogy, because you're basically teaching them how to move on and take care of themselves. And that takes a lot of the onus off you, because, obviously you don't want them coming back, because it's like you're actually just giving them a fish every day. So I think that's pretty huge. So let me ask you this, you're doing some great things. You've got your website up now and you've got courses coming out. How can people get there that are going through this? Tell people where they can find you and how they can connect with you, even on social media. Because a lot of people are going to want to connect with you, and they're going to want to be able to try to implement some of these strategies.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah. You can connect with me on social media on LinkedIn. I have a heavy presence on LinkedIn, where I will do at least 2 posts a day with some very inspirational stuff, and I've got a huge following that's just growing massively. I only started using LinkedIn. I have had LinkedIn account for a long time, but never really used it much. And I started using it probably around February-ish, like mid-February. And now I've got over 10,000 followers in that 2 months. And that's just organic growth as well. It's not like I've been promoting greatly or sending out lots of connect with me messages. It's just what I've done is I wanted to focus on how can I add the best value to people and sharing knowledge. But also too, I think the approach that I've got is unique and it's found a specific audience. It's about live for your goals. That procrastination doesn't exist. You have the choice. It's your power to do that. Those kind of things have really resonated with people. And I've got a lot of people sending other people to my account. So my LinkedIn account is one, and I'm in the process of. I have a website, Damian Andrews, DAMIAN Andrews.com. At the moment, that's got my free material on it, or some of my free material, and I'm releasing that progressively through 2020. My goal is to reach 1 million people by the end of 2020, and so that's growing quite significantly at the moment. And so, and then as we work through the year, there's more and more material. I've got about 8 courses left that I will release progressively throughout the year. So that's on my website, damianandrews.com. But that website will be updated. I've got a lot of material in the background providing, again, taking what I do with high-end corporates, but adapting that to smaller companies and also to individuals. So I've got some individuals programs coming as well. Although the individual program will probably be more like one-on-one type stuff, and it'll be an invite type thing because it's really, I really want to focus on giving high quality information, and so that's where show me that you really want this, because it is very, very powerful, and it's not let's fluff around, and you can really make something wonderful with your life if you have these tools. If you want, if that doesn't work from you from the program perspective, a lot of my stuff is available in the articles that I write, which are on LinkedIn and will be on the blog on my website once that's updated. There'll be a lot of free material coming out on the website. There's a regular newsletter, a weekly newsletter that'll be there launching shortly, which that'll be free, and you can get that information there, so you can get all that knowledge there. So best places to reach me is either at my LinkedIn page, and you can contact me through that and connect and send me a direct message, and I respond to all my direct messages. And so when the website's up and running, that will also have contactability there as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, so basically DamianAndrews.com, and LinkedIn's a really good place to link up with Damian. And 10,000 followers, that's pretty good since February. So, obviously you're making an impact there. And, one of the big takeaways is, that I loved from this was it's not procrastination. It's you're making a choice.
A choice.
Awesome.
Exactly. It is a choice. Yeah. And that's one of the biggest things, is to really recognize that it is yours. There's so much power when you say that I have the choice. I choose what I want. And when you say that, if you say I choose what you want, just notice the feeling you have inside. It's different, and it's empowering.
Well, that's awesome. And so, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's Damian Andrews. Damian, it's been great having you on. And let me know if there's anything I can help you with in the future. And ladies and gentlemen, have a great one.
It's been a pleasure being with you. Thank you. No problem. Yep.
So Damian, when you look at everything you're doing, you get your website, everybody can contact you on LinkedIn, your website, you've got the courses coming up, your newsletter. When you look at your overall arch and what you're trying to do, what is the truth of your purpose?
I'm really about helping people recognize the awesomeness that they have inside, that they have this amazing ability to contribute, especially now when you look at today's world dealing with COVID-19, that there's this massive change going on, and that we have in us the power to choose the outcome that we want, that we can make the most of this, that we can contribute, that we can make this world an amazing place. And part of that is really about inspiring people to recognize that power is within them. It's not something you have to go out and get. It's not something you get off the shelf or some book that's going to read. You've just got to turn that key inside your mind, inside your heart, and recognize that you have the power to choose. And all of a sudden, all those answers start to appear right in front of you.
Awesome.
That's what I'm about.
That's some great stuff. Well, Damian, I want to say thanks for being on the show. And you have a good one, and enjoy things down under.
It's been a fantastic being here. Thank you for inviting me.
Awesome. You take care.
We've reached the end of the episode of The Truth with Danger Doug, but making the change in your life has never been more important than right now. Head to trueshow.co for more ways to take control of your life, get out of the programming, and find out what you truly want to do. You can also connect with Danger Doug directly on Instagram at Truth with Danger Doug for more insight and inspiration on finding your truth. We look forward to having you back on the next episode of The Truth with Danger Doug. Take care and make that change.